Hey, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Hiro Kanagawa, and I'm hanging with Galaxy on Comic-Con Radio.
Centuries from now, a deadly virus decimated mankind. Those who survived emerged blind, forced to adapt in a new world where vision is only a myth. This is the beginning of a new world.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Galaxy signing in for Comic-Con Radio. Coverage of pop culture events from around the globe. Amazing interviews with celebrities. Daily recaps and reviews of popular television. Movie reviews. Everything Comic-Con and fandom from around the globe. Comic-Con Radio. Get ready to enter our universe. Let's go.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Galaxy on another amazing day on Comic-Con Radio. Today we have a cool guest. He is a Canadian-Japanese actor, has been in a lot of fandom TV shows and movies, and is coming up on an amazing TV series that we're going to talk about on this episode. Today we have Hiro Kanagawa on Comic-Con Radio. Hiro, what's up, brother? Welcome.
Hey, how you doing? My pleasure to be here entirely.
Thank you so much. So your face is a familiar face. People have seen it everywhere. You notice your face being on all these TV shows and movies, but now we get to know who you are. Who is Hiro Kanagawa?
Well, as you said, I'm a Vancouver-based actor up here in Canada. I was actually born in Japan, but I grew up all over the place in Eastern Canada, in Michigan. I went to college in Vermont. I went to grad school in Philadelphia. I lived in New York for a while, Montreal for a while, Tokyo for a while. So I've been all over the place, and I live up here with my family now, and make a good living, living the dream, as they say. Acting in the film and TV productions up here.
Well, you know what? You were on a TV show called Smallville. You were the principal of the school. That kind of, I think, started your career in the fandom world, I would say. What do you think?
Yes, that's definitely true for that kind of youth-oriented genre show. Previous to that, I'd done a couple of X-Files. That was all around the same time, you're right. It's when a lot of the high-profile sci-fi shows started coming to Vancouver, and I was fortunate enough to be in several of them.
Well, everybody calls Canada Hollywood North, and the opportunities that there are now is amazing versus during that time that you started on these type of TV shows. Do you feel that there's a lot of opportunities in Canada now more than before?
Absolutely. I think when I started out, Vancouver was very much a location where it was like the B projects, were coming up here. And now, especially because it's such a center for the special effects, there's so many special effects studios up here doing top-notch work that, the projects that come up here are no longer kind of the B projects or the C projects. We're getting the huge high-profile shows and movies coming up here now. So that's definitely been a huge boon to my career. And as my resume has grown over the years, I have a greater access to be a part of these bigger shows.
That is so wonderful to hear that you actually were there in the beginning stages of the Canadian television boom, and now you're here doing it amazingly. And you are in a new TV series called See. S-E-E. What is See about? Because you're co-starring with Jason Momoa, so this is going to be a huge TV series.
It's going to be huge. It's an epic series set in a dystopian world many hundreds of years in the future where There are only a handful of human survivors. I believe in the trailer they say there's maybe 2 million on the planet, and they all happen to be blind. There has been some kind of sickness, some kind of event that has taken the sense of sight away from humanity, right? So all of the survivors live without sight and are separated from one another in various tribes. And my character, Lord Unoa, happens to be an elder in one of the tribes, led by a character named Queen Kane, played by Sylvia Hoecks. So I'm not actually in Jason Momoa's tribe, so I met him, but I don't actually have any scenes with him because I'm in a completely different tribe from his.
It's all good. You're in the same TV show, right? So you guys are going to be in the same universe and the same everything. It's okay. You know what? It'll happen. But as long as, the TV show comes out, I know it's going to be great. Anything that has high caliber actors in and has so much investment put in it, it's going to be amazing. So acting for you, was it something that you wanted to do as a child? Like, this is that question. What made you get into it?
My background is actually originally in visual art. I was a sculptor way back in the day. And one of my first aspirations was to write, which I still do. I'm actually up here in Canada, recognized as a playwright. But in high school and college, that's when I started acting in student films and student theater productions. And I most certainly did take acting classes during those days, although I never majored in theater. And then in the late 80s, a lot of visual artists were actually getting into performance art. So I came to acting via really kind of a performance art route, very arty-farty, but that's how I got into it originally. And then once I, came to Vancouver, I knew the film and TV industry here was getting going, and I got into it, and, the rest is history, as they say.
Well, that's a cool history right there, and it's funny how you said arty-farty, because that's a funny way. You seem like a very, conservative gentleman, so to hear that makes me laugh. Your current TV show right now that you're on, I watch every episode. I've gotten the pleasure of watching episodes in advance. I've talked with many of the stars on the show, Derek Lee Shorten and a bunch of other ones. You played Dr. Kitamura on The Terror Infamy. That's a really cool TV show. How was that working with a big Asian ensemble, as they put it?
I think that the show is, for those of us who are in it, it's more significant than a show with a large Asian cast, just because of the history of the story, which is, that it's set in a Japanese internment camp during World War II. And many of the cast, their families have a personal connection to that dark period of history. Mine does not, because my family moved to North America in the 1960s, but it was still, insofar as the internment was a kind of a seminal experience for both Japanese Canadians and Japanese Americans. It was really important for me to be a part of the show, and it was a great reunion for me. I got to work with Kiki Sukizane, who played my daughter on Heroes Reborn. And it was great to to work with other Asian actors. We don't often get a chance to work together on shows because typically a show might have me, and then I'll be in a cast with predominantly white actors or whatever. And so it was a great experience for sure, not just because of the fact that there were a lot of Asian actors involved, but because of the historical resonance as well.
That's really awesome that you got to be part of that, and it meant so much to you. When I spoke to Lee and, of course, Derek, and everyone says the same thing. That must feel so good that you could be part of something. And it's revolutionary in a way, because you don't get a lot of these kind of opportunities to show different things in history. And of course, add a huge supernatural twist to it, which I really love myself. The last couple of episodes, amazing. So I hope that they don't change next season to something different. Season 1 was cool, but the season 2 really, I think, labeled the show as something very watchable in the fandom world. And I know a lot of fans love it heavily. So you have a huge history, a huge filmography, countless. You've been in many, many, many amazing TV shows and movies. How do you feel sometimes because of all these cool opportunities? Do you still get wowed by it, or is it something normal for you now?
It's my life, and I think when you're inside of it, you don't necessarily realize the impact. But, when I'm out on the street and people recognize me, when I'm at Costco or, in a coffee shop or whatever, and people stop me to chat because of the impact that a particular show that I was in had on them, it's those times when I realize, it's actually a big deal to people. And I feel very proud and fortunate to have, been a part of all of these shows that people have enjoyed over the years. I was just thinking back 4 years ago, I started shooting the first season of Man in the High Castle for Amazon Prime. And that was the first major production on a streaming platform. And that was just 4 years ago. And now, this year, C is coming out. Another show that I'm involved in is coming out on Facebook called Limetown. And I've also been in, I also was in a huge production for Netflix called Altered Carbon. And I was just reflecting on how much the ecology, the industry has changed in just 4 years. Because 4 years ago, when I was doing Man in the High Castle, up until that time, the overwhelming majority of my work and income was for network shows. And 4 years later, it's very rare now that I work on a show for a network. It's all streaming now.
Oh, yeah. These streaming platforms are coming out with amazing TV shows and movies. Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, the list goes on. Apple. It's so many amazing networks. And they're giving a lot of opportunities for amazing actors like yourself and newcomers to make a huge name for themselves in many genre spaces. And it's the way to go. They're just opening the doors. They're saying, here, this is a cool show. We're going to put this much money behind it. And I love those streaming platforms because they release all the episodes at once. It's like Binge Town, USA. And I think it's fun. And that's what everybody's been waiting for all these years, to be able to watch the season at once and not have to wait 3 months to watch something. But Man in the High Castle, you did really good in that. How did you feel your character went in that series?
As you say, it was just such a kind of revolutionary thing for Amazon Prime to be making a TV show, and for it to have turned out so well is so amazing. I knew when I walked into my first wardrobe fitting and I was walking through the production office and I was seeing all of the visual imagery of the sets and the costumes and how it was all going to be put together, and reading the first scripts, I had a feeling it was just going to be an amazing universe and that it was going to make a huge impact. And my only regret is that, halfway through season 2, there was kind of a change of showrunners, and my character got, killed off rather abruptly. I feel like at the beginning of season 2, when I went in for my wardrobe fittings, there were like all these, there were like Hawaiian shirts, and, there were like all these different costumes for my Yakuza boss, like he was going to be in some different situations. But then, midway through the season, they kind of went on hiatus, and when we came back, I got a call from one of the producers saying that they were going to go in a different direction, and, regrettably, I was going to get killed. So that was my one big regret with that show. But I'm so happy for the other actors, that it's done so well, and still, stay in touch with Lee, of course, but also Joel De La Fuente, who plays Inspector Keto, and I'm just really, really happy for that show.
I think a lot of these TV shows bring you on because, like I said, you have this charisma to you, And I think it sets the whole series off. You're just that guy, and you've touched a lot of TV shows, I'm going to tell you that. And I know that fans know that as well. Now, I know since you've been part of the fandom universe, have you been to a Comic-Con convention?
I've not been to a Comic-Con convention. There's some things in the works. Probably next year I'm going to start maybe attending some of these. There's some things in the works. That's all I can say about it right now. But yeah, it's something that I've definitely, been intending to do and wanting to do for a while. So I think that'll start up in the next little while.
Well, you know what, Hiro? Once you start going to Comic-Cons, different ones, all of them, wherever the road takes you, you're going to see true fan support and true fan love, and you're going to be amazed by it. You're going to be like, wow, this is what I missed all these years, because you've been on fandom shows for like a decade, all sorts of shows. And a lot of these fans that love these series, they are die hard. I can't wait for you to experience it. Hopefully we'll be at one that you're at as well, so we could see how you feel about it, because the first time is always amazing. We love capturing that and seeing people for the first time at a convention, and they're like, oh my God, I've been missing out on this. Another cool thing I wanted to bring up, you were born in Japan. You were born in Sapporo. Is that where the beer comes from?
It is, absolutely. I was just there a few weeks ago, the Sapporo Beer Factory, with my parents. It's a great facility, and Sapporo beer is brewed there, and they brew their premium brand Ebisu there as well. And they have a great factory with a museum and restaurants. And if you're ever in Sapporo, the Sapporo Beer Factory, man.
That's nice, man. Yeah, I was like, wow, he's born in Sapporo. That's pretty cool. That's a pretty popular beer. I just wanted to bring that up. I know it's off topic.
And if you're ever there at the beginning of August, they have a huge beer festival in Odori Park, which is in the center of Sapporo, and every city block, like one of the major Japanese beer makers gets one city block of the park. So Suntory's there, Asahi's there, Kirin's there, Sapporo's there, and it's a huge event. It's a lot of fun.
So I got a question for you. That's some good data. August is the time to go. So if I go to Japan, I'm going to go during that time. But I got a question, man. Since you've been in so many TV shows and cool projects, is there any one of them or a couple of them that really affected you in a way where you're like, oh, wow, this is really amazing? I know you spoke a little on Terror, but was there any other projects that made you feel that way?
I had a really good time on the ones that have already aired, like Altered Carbon certainly stands out. That was a huge budget production. Everything about it, from the cast to the writing to the directors they brought in, that was just a phenomenal experience for me, especially because, my character on that show, Captain Tanaka, had, a pretty compelling arc. He was a very conflicted individual, and I loved every minute of being on that show. I have a show coming up, which is Facebook's first show. It's called Limetown, which is based on a very successful podcast. And you know what? I had a great time on that show as well. So I'm really, really stoked for people to see it when it comes out next month.
So Limetown is coming out next month. So what's the premise of it, if people don't know or haven't heard of the podcast?
Yeah, it's about a fictional town called Limetown, which is a scientific facility that's been created by a tech multi-billionaire, brings like 300 of the greatest minds in the world together in a town called Limetown to do some scientific work. And one night, overnight, they all disappear. They and their families all disappear. And so the series, and I'm not giving anything away because this is all part of the podcast, 18 years later, there's an investigative journalist who starts investigating the Limetown disappearances to try and find out where all these scientists and their families went. So that's the basic premise of the series. And I play a character named Arby Villard, who is the billionaire who funded Limetown.
Wow, that's cool. That sounds exciting just listening to it. Yeah, the podcast, I listen to it here and there and I understand the premise, but a lot of people probably don't. So I think it's going to be a good series because they were so detailed in every episode of the podcast. And it's not a normal podcast. It's basically a storytelling one. It's in like made up stories, kind of like the X-Files type of thing. And you said the journalist is trying to find what happened to these 300 people that just disappeared. So that's going to be cool, man. And, that became
really
a number one podcast.
That, yeah.
So you have a recurring role on that. You're like a recurring person. You're going to be there the entire season.
Well, the way the series is structured, it's kind of like every episode, the journalist finds a new person to kind of focus on.
Gotcha. I get it.
There's a couple of episodes in there where she's tracked me down and my character will be featured. But I had a tremendous time working on that show with the lead, Jessica Biel, obviously, and the director, Rebecca Thomas. That's one of the great things about the show is that there were so many women positions of creative control in positions that are typically taken up by men. So that was another great experience with the show, and I'm really looking forward to people seeing it. I think it's going to be great.
So that's coming out next month.
Yeah, I believe October 16th is the release date.
Uh-oh, so they want to come out around Halloween time so everybody gets all freaked out and all into the mood. That's a very good marketing plan. I love it. Hiro, you're such a cool dude. If people want to get a hold of you on social, what's your social media handle?
Hiro Kanagawa TV, all lowercase, on Instagram and Twitter. I have a lot of fun interacting with people on Twitter and Instagram. So yeah, hit me up and I'd love to, have some new followers and interact with some new fans. So that'd be great.
Well, they will. They're gonna follow you, and I hope you go to a Comic-Con soon. And got one more question.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, of course. One more question. The TV show C. What else can you tell us about it that you're allowed to say?
There's so many incredible people involved in the show. I mean, the director of the first three is Francis Lawrence of Hunger Games fame, right?
Yeah.
And the writers are the people behind that incredible British crime drama series, Peaky Blinders. In terms of the production values and the scale and scope of this, I mean, I think it's going to rival Game of Thrones in terms of the size, the epic size of the thing. So, you know what? People should be really, really excited about this, and I think they're going to be blown away when it comes out.
You got so many things going on. You're in the Terror. Limetown's coming out in October. The Sea is coming out in November. You're starring with all these fabulous people. You play all these cool roles. I love the way you act, man. I got to tell you that. I'm going to be honest with you. You have a very, sellable face. You're a very sellable person, man. Like, you sell your role. You have this stern face, a poker face. Do you play poker? Because you would win, man.
I do play poker. Yeah, I got a couple of groups of buddies that I play poker with on Friday nights.
If your buddies are listening, they now know you're acting. You're cheating, man. You have that poker face. You can sell a card.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I've been very fortunate to be a part of all of these shows and to work with all of these, great people. And I mean, there's pros and cons of the career that I've had, but one of the pros is that, being able to jump around all these shows is to meet all of these great people, as opposed to, if I'd been doing the same show for 7 years or whatever, I wouldn't have had the same opportunities to meet all these people and have all these different experiences. So no regrets so far.
No regrets so far, just making it happen, just shooting. Have you since worked on any Japanese production? Like, have you ever been back home and worked on any sets there? Because I know it's a big difference between, working here and working overseas. Have you ever tried that?
Yeah, the one opportunity I had to work in Japan was actually a BBC production. There was a production they did called Heroes and Villains, where they were doing these 1-hour docudramas about various heroes and villains throughout history. And they did a, kind of a samurai drama based on the two lords who fought the decisive battle that that essentially unified Japan as a country back in the 1600s. And I played Ishida Mitsunari, who's kind of the Robert E. Lee of Japan. He lost that battle, but, is still kind of beloved in the southern part of Japan. And so we went to Kyoto to shoot that and got to work with the guys who, do the costumes and the fights at Toho Studios for all of the Japanese samurai epics. And, that was a great, great experience. We got to, shoot at authentic castles and temples around Kyoto and had all of the authentic samurai gear. So that was the one opportunity that I had to work in Japan, and it was certainly one of the highlights of my career. And absolutely, I hope to get back there again to work.
That's pretty cool to hear. I was chatting with Ty Ma. I had him on the show a few weeks ago, and he told me he went back to Hong Kong to shoot a movie, and he said it's much different. He said over here, they work certain hours and they're off the clock and stuff like that. But he was saying over there, they work like 24/7. He said they're very respectful, but it's so different. So that's why I wanted to ask you if you got a chance to go back and how the experience was. But you said it's amazing, so that's wonderful.
Yeah, anime, I've done a lot of voiceover stuff where when Japanese anime comes over and it gets dubbed into English, I've done quite a bit of that for sure. And there's a lot of aspects about working in Japan with Japanese productions and so on that I definitely want to do more of that for sure. The one thing is the production, we're very pampered here, at lunchtime, there's a caterer and there's like a big spread of, food for us. In Japan, they just send a assistant to the convenience store and he comes back with some rice balls and sandwiches, and that's lunch. So that's different.
Their budgets are different, and I've been on movie sets in many countries, and I see a huge difference. That's why when I get an international actor that does international stuff, I always ask them, hey, how's your experience in those situations? Well, that's cool. See, now we learned, in Japan, they'll send them to the convenience store.
What's fascinating is that it's even different in North America, depending on the city. Like in Vancouver, the catering is very, very good. And then, you go to Toronto, and it's kind of more like cafeteria food, And then, you go to Montreal, and sometimes because of the French, or in the French culture, there is no catering. It's lunchtime, and they just say, okay, bye, see you, and, you're on your own for lunch. So It's very different in North America, depending on the city.
That's crazy. I did not know that. They should at least feed you guys, right, on a set. But, their mentality is probably like, hey, these are actors. They probably have money.
Yeah, it's like, they have different unions in Quebec. But I was surprised at how different the catering is in Toronto, frankly, because, I guess it's just a different culture.
Yeah, well, there's a different influence there.
The quality of the scripts and the production that makes all the difference to me. I don't really care about the food, As long as you feed me, what's important to me is the people that I'm working with and the quality of the writing and the production values. That's what really, is important for my happiness.
You're that guy that sells the role. Hiro, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. I cannot wait to have you back on the show.
Entirely.
You have an open door here. Anytime you would like to come on the show, we would love to have you on, chat with you, and get some more knowledge from you. I know we could probably talk for like 10 hours, but I know you're a busy dude. You got so much going on. Is there anything you want to tell the fans before we head out?
Well, as I mentioned, I got Limetown and then C. And then, just keep an eye out for me because I got other projects coming. And next year, maybe I hope to see you fans at some of these conventions.
Well, we hope so as well, Hiro. Stay our hero, man. Keep doing it. Keep working. Keep, lending yourself to the universe because you're doing amazing. I am really happy that I chatted with you because I love your work. I think it's fabulous. I'm going to go ahead and watch all your shows from now on and make sure tell the whole fandom universe to do as well. And ladies and gems, please reach out to Hiro on his Instagram and Twitter. Catch him on Limetown coming out this October. and on See. That's SEE. It's a new TV series with Jason Momoa. Francis Lawrence is directing it, written by Stephen Knight. It's on Apple TV. It's their biggest thing yet. Huge production. And catch Hiro in it because he's going to be doing amazing in it. He has an amazing role in the series. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Galaxy with Hiro Kanagawa signing out from another amazing episode of Comic-Con Radio. Hiro, I know you're a serious gentleman, but we got to blow kisses to people. This is the thing. Are you ready? 3, 2,
I'm
1.
ready.
Mwah, billion kisses to the universe. I bet nobody else made you to do that. Well, we appreciate you for that, man. Thank you so much. And we're signing out.
My pleasure.
Peace.
All right. Thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Galaxy signing out from another amazing episode of Comic-Con Radio. Tune in for your daily shows of Comic-Con Radio. Go to comiccon-radio.com. Reach us on social media, Instagram at Comic-Con Radio. Comic-Con Radio, taking the world one listener at a time.